You are listening to the Enormocast.
Hey folks, the word Enormo has long been used by Enormocast listeners to get great coffee from Defiant Bean and now bonfirecoffee.com. But now the magic word is going to make you not only more alert, but stronger and therefore more attractive. How does this work? Is simply screaming it at the crux enough? Perhaps, but more indirectly, but effectively, you can now use Enormo to get a discount on pure climbing holds. Go to pureholds.com, purholds.com, and enter Enormo at checkout for 10% off your purchase. And while you're there, check out the Enormo hold.
We gotta get
Listen, where are you playing in town? You playing here?
We're doing the Enormo Dome, whatever it is. It's terrific.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a
the big
house. We
place,
sold
that
it out.
side of town. That's a
Very
big
nice.
place. You sold it out.
20,000
seats.
We really should.
Look, you better get up there before you panic. Those pens are loose. You're very good. I have really enjoyed traveling with you. We'll make it. I don't think so. But we shall continue with style. Good weather, bad weather. Now or later, anytime.
Today's show is brought to you by Black Diamond Equipment, with support from Maxim Ropes.
And Defiant Bean is now Bonfire Coffee. How did that happen? Don't worry about it. Jeff is still roasting delicious coffee that will delight your taste buds and will make you feel, smell, and seem more sophisticated. Go to bonfirecoffee.com and enter Enormo at checkout for a discount.
And now back to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Enormocast. This is your host, Chris Kalous. It is October 16th, about 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. And this is episode 67 of the Enormocast, a conversation with ice climber Dawn Glanc. Dawn was on the show that I put out this spring with a few athletes, a few short conversations, and we had such a good time that afterwards we talked about doing it again and managed to hook up at the trade show this summer. This will be my last episode recorded at the OR show in Salt Lake City. And the conversation with Dawn is actually sort of a nice fit with the episode I put out last time with Angela Van Wiemersch, in that they're both ice climbers. They're of a different generation, both women. They have a connection to Ouray, and there's sort of two different kind of approaches and attitudes in both of them. So if you listen to episode 66 with Angela, here's another approach to the same sport, maybe a little more traditional route that Dawn took to ice climbing, but nevertheless, two women getting after it. And Dawn has a lot to say about the gender politics that kind of fit in with climbing, and it's a big part of our conversation here, so look forward to that. So let's talk about the Enormocast for just a minute. We're coming up on the 3-year anniversary in December. And I've managed to keep this thing going with your help, with your listenership, and I do appreciate that. I also appreciate the donations that have come in over the last few years, but it's been a while since I've thanked everybody for those, and also I'd love to encourage anybody else who feels like this thing has been bringing value and inspiration into their lives. Well, you can give back just a little bit. The primary income of the podcast is donations, so if you're so inclined, click over to enormocast.com and click on the donate button and type in an amount, however much you want. Buy me a cup of coffee, buy me a beer, buy me a Sprinter van, whatever you're into. Also, you can help out by clicking on the Help Out tab, and there's easy stuff up there to do too. Writing a review at iTunes somehow helps. I don't really understand. Every once in a while, I'm on the What's Hot list for outdoor podcasts. Every once in a while, I creep up on the Dirtbag Diaries. Very rarely, if ever, surpassing them. But still, you know, I'm creeping up on them. I'm right behind them. iTunes. I don't know how it works, but I think writing reviews is good. You can like the Facebook page. You can buy a T-shirt. You can support our other sponsors. A bunch of different things to do. This free podcast is not free to create, so any support is appreciated. Don't have much going on. Just going to be plugging away at this thing for a couple months. Don't have any sort of appearances coming up or anything like that. So hopefully we will go into the darkness of winter happy and healthy together. Okay, folks, let's get to Dawn's interview. Lovely, lovely person, Dawn. We always have a good time talking, and she is very fun to talk to. So hope you enjoy this one. We debate a little bit of gender politics in here, which, I'm always up for that. So ice climber and guide, Ohio transplant, Midwestern girl at heart, Dawn Glanc. As you know, Black Diamond is a sponsor of the Enormocast. They help the Enorma love to flow freely into your ears, which is fine with me because I've used Black Diamond equipment since I started climbing. And we're talking back to the double axle Camelots and hexes and things like that. I'll say one thing that I truly believe in, that the Camelot C4 is the best cam ever made. I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody on that one. But did you know that they make apparel now too? Men's apparel, women's apparel. What is apparel? Well, that's an industry word for clothes, jackets, pants, shorts, everything you need for climbing, everything you need for skiing. So if you love their gear, and I know you have some already, because if you're a climber, then you've got some VD gear, and go check out what they're doing with the clothes over at blackdiamondequipment.com. So have a look, and thank Black Diamond for sponsoring the Enormocast. Okay, the other thing is don't change.
What do you mean?
All right.
Change my seat here or change my position?
No, a lot of times when the mics come on, everything changes. People are like, all right. But anyway, I mention it to everybody now because it's not...
So now you're going to make me all self-conscious about it, thinking like, am I being too stiff? Should I look over here? I didn't even blink yet.
All right. Your eyes are starting to dry out. All right, anyway. There you go. We just broke the ice. So I'm sitting in the America's Best Suites and Inns or something like that. Do you remember what it's called?
America's Best Suites or something
yeah,
like that. It's quite nice,
like
actually,
it's
for a
not
dive
bad.
hotel.
Yeah, it's a little divey. Mm-hmm. And Dawn Glanc, whose name I know how to pronounce now, has returned to the Enormocast.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be here. Very excited to be here.
Dawn was on a show I did. I guess I put it out. Must have been in April. No. May or April, but it was from the Red Rock Rendezvous where she sat down for like a little 10-minute quick hit. And it actually was really, I think, of those four, it was probably my favorite one. Like,
nice.
I think, or in a way, because I think that we had, we knew each other, or we know each other previously, and we just slipped into this kind of nice little dynamic of chatting away. So, and I didn't know what to expect from you.
Yeah, well, thanks. Well, I thought it went well, too. So it was fun.
Anyway, I'm glad that you're back because we have a lot more to talk about than we could get to in 10 minutes. You actually got in touch with me that you were going to be here and would be interested in sitting down. And I had suggested that, obviously, after the show we did earlier. And you were all fired up about a video that you'd seen on the internet, which we'll get to in a little bit. But before we get there, I want to open with a question that I open sometimes with, and that is to ask you what kind of climber you are.
Oh, what kind of climber I am? I'm a cragger, I think, at heart, mostly. I like to go cragging, whether that's ice climbing or rock climbing.
What do you mean by that?
I don't want to have to carry a heavy backpack.
Okay.
I don't want to have to walk very far. I want to get a lot of pitches in and have a really good time with my friends and be able to climb hard and not feel like I'm trying to kill myself that day, but just go out and have a good time. Yeah, so I guess that's the type of climber I am.
Right.
Somebody who wants to have fun and not really scare themselves every time.
Right. And so we're talking about, your main focus is ice climbing.
Oh, I probably didn't answer the question the way you wanted. But yes, my main focus...
You can answer the question.
My main focus is rock and ice climbing, or ice climbing, I should say. Mixed climbing is my main focus.
And are you, do you go off into sort of the big mountain routes, or is it strictly cragging?
I have to say that I think the mixed climbing that I'm more drawn to is the sport mixed climbing. Mm-hmm. I can climb harder on mixed climbing and like that than I can on regular rock. And so if I see a big, massive amphitheater cave, I'm drawn to do that if I'm mixed climbing, but not so much if it was just pure rock climbing. So it's a weird mental thing I have with that. But I don't typically go into the really big mountains. I suck at altitude.
Really?
I'm terrible at altitude. My body just shuts down.
Where did you find that out? How'd you find
I
that
could go
out?
as simple as, up on the Tetons
Okay.
and the San Juans. I mean, I just started getting up high and I just don't do very well. My body starts shutting down. So I learned the hard way on Denali that I don't do very well up there. So I was never successful there because the altitude would zap me.
And you're just, and just you think it's just the way you're built.
Yeah, it's just the way I'm built. And again, I don't like to carry big, heavy loads. Right. It's not really, that's not my thing. I don't like to hike a long way. So,
were you up there on a personal trip or were you guiding?
Working, guiding.
Yeah.
And that's probably not the best way to be introduced to that kind of stuff.
No, yeah.
No.
That's kind of like when I was a guide, that I was definitely just a summer rock guide, because I always felt like on winter type climbing, I was like busy taking care of myself.
Yeah.
Like that was taking all of my energy, be like, oh, you want hot drinks? Make them yourself. Because I'm not getting out of the sleeping bag kind of thing, which, does not result in good tips or anything like that.
No, that's not good client
As
care
I just
to do
peek
that.
out of my mummy bag like, like, what did you say? I said make it yourself. We're gonna do a lesson in self-reliance today.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to climb today without asking me any questions.
Other companies call that a solo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We would have done a lot of that. But so not that great at altitude. Don't like the heavy packs. Drawn to the big crazy cave type mixed climbing and ice climbing.
And I like this. I was always drawn to ice climbing. There's something about it. It's just very gorgeous. It's a medium like I've never seen before, and it's always changing, and it's here today, gone tomorrow, and not really like rock climbing. Like super crack is going to be super crack today, and I'll be there tomorrow and the next day, and where an ice climb doesn't come in every year, and so it's just very different. And I'm more drawn to that because I'm more drawn to the ice because of that. And so I originally was an ice climber, and then the more I ice climbed, I wasn't that I got bored with it. It's just that I started to see different formations that weren't quite touching the ground, and I had to figure out how to get onto them, and that's where I started mixed climbing. That, and I wanted to compete in the Ouray Ice Festival.
Okay.
So I had to learn to mixed climb to do that.
Because that's where you are based out of.
Correct.
Is down in the San Juans.
Yes, I live in Ouray, Colorado, year-round.
Okay. And your primarily income is from guiding?
Yes. I have some sponsorship, but we're not Tiger Woods or nothing, so it's, I can't pay my bills and jackets, but I have sponsorships.
Nice. Yeah.
I wish I could pay my bills and gear and sponsor jackets. That'd be rad. Yeah, that's not that. You can't. That's bad juju. That's bad karma to.
Is it?
I think to get free stuff and then to if when I'm finished with it to sell it to somebody, that just doesn't seem right. I'd rather give it to my friends.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah,
I wonder.
You want to be Dawn's friend. When I'm cleaning my closets out, totally, you get a lot of free stuff.
Yeah, I would imagine, but it seems like almost you. I don't know what your situation is, but I have friends who get so much stuff, and I guess giving away is good karma, but there's also like putting food on the table. And I mean, I have friends who are bikers, and at least they've told me that is like the understood thing. Mm-hmm. Like Specialized knows that they're going to do something with that bike to get some income. So it's like,
I don't think the sponsors want to hear that we're selling all their stuff.
All right, so that noted. Mountain Hardware.
That way I get all my free. See, and then think about it. It is putting food on the table because I give you a free jacket. You're psyched. You're going to feed me a couple dinners. I'm way to go.
All right,
I'm putting food on the table.
It's on the record. Dawn Glanc does not eBay her free gear.
I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
No, she's not just saying that either. Mm-mm. She's not winking at me right now. You cannot see her, but she's not.
Nope. You want to be my friend. That's for sure.
Nor will I if you give me free gear. I promise.
Liar.
Anyhow, so I don't even remember what the hell we were talking about. Okay. The mixed climbing thing, you said that you started as an ice climber. So let's step back to there. Like you mentioned before the show that you're from Ohio.
Yep.
You're my hat trick of women coming out of the Midwest.
There's a lot of us from the Midwest.
In the last 3 interviews I've done, I don't know if I'll post them in this order, but coming from Cleveland, it is cold.
It is cold.
But not an ice climbing mecca.
No, not really an outdoor mecca at all. I grew up as a motorsports kid. grew up with my parents in a 4-wheel drive truck club, and that's how I got into the outdoors as a child. So we would drive through the outdoors, and then I grew up playing softball, another great feeder sport for climbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was super good at that, and played softball growing up, and we didn't have very much stuff like outdoor stuff in Ohio growing up. We didn't. Maybe people did this stuff, but I didn't even know people rock climbed until I was 20. I had no idea that somebody even would go and climb mountains. That just didn't register to me. I mean, we were busy chasing boys and underage drinking and doing things we weren't supposed to do. We definitely weren't.
How old
doing
are
this
you?
Stuff. I'm 39.
39. Okay, so you're in my cohort to a certain extent. I'm a couple years older than that, but I was the same way. I didn't know what rock climbing was. Like the the media was not really as fixated on it as they are now.
There wasn't Citibank commercials about it or anything, and if there was, it was something so cheesy, not even close to rock climbing, that it wouldn't even probably have spurred my interest.
Right.
But no, I was in Ohio, and I was a student at Kent State University, and somebody took me rock climbing, and I loved it. I just loved it right away. And I thought, man, this is totally why I love it. I want to do more of this. And I was living in Ohio, so it's not like I had a lot of choices. And I wound up at the same time taking a course at Kent State University for recreation. And I was like, I didn't know people could use recreation as a major at college. And so this was like a huge moment for me that I realized that you could both climb and that you could do this kind of a joke, not a joke major because I did graduate with it. I shouldn't call it a joke major, but that you could do stuff like that.
Somebody else said that to you. You'd be like, no, it's not.
I know. Well, it's not. It's not. I have a legitimate degree from a real university, even though it's outdoor education.
Right.
But that doesn't matter. When I discovered those two things kind of were at the same time, I moved to the Black Hills of South Dakota to pursue school. This is before Google and the internet, so I had to look up in a book where colleges were that had 4-year degrees, and Black Hills State was one of them. So I chose Black Hills State University randomly. I was on a trip with my dad. Actually, we did a motorcycle trip, he and I, when I was 20, because I said, hey, Dad, I want to move out west to the mountains. And I was 20, and I'd never even seen the mountains. I'd never seen anything in the West. I had seen the East Coast mountains. No offense to East Coast folks, but they're not that big. They're more hills. Let's just be honest.
Okay.
And so when I moved, I went west.
Send her the mail, not me.
Yeah. So when I went west with my dad, I was on his motorcycle. He and I was 20 for 13 days, and we traveled all through Ohio, Wyoming, Colorado, Montana, and we came back through South Dakota. And I was looking at schools, and of all the random places I could choose, the mountains in Colorado scared the shit out of me because they were big and I'd never seen them.
Right.
I'd never seen anything like that. I just thought they would eat me alive. So the Black Hills really called to me. It was a place that seemed more manageable. It's way small now when I go back and look at it, but at the time it seemed really big. And so I moved there when I was 21, and that's where it all began as far as climbing, because I moved there, and a few days later, I met this guy. His name was Mike Niebuhr, and Niebuhr was like, hey, you want to go rock climb with us? And my boyfriend and I had moved there with, we were like, yeah, we're totally rock climbers. Let's go. And we showed up at this tiny crag, and you had a lead climb, and I was a top roper, and I didn't even know what lead climbing was. And it was like, how are we going to get our rope up there? We can't really walk around, and so he told me what lead climbing was, and it was like, wow, this is really rock climbing. And so that's kind of what got me into it, was that guy just one day saying, hey, you want to go? And I mean, I had climbed a little bit, but Mike really got me in that direction of going rock climbing. And then that winter, as soon as it froze up in South Dakota, same thing in the Black Hills, he called me up. It's like, hey, you want to go ice climbing? And I said, yeah, totally. It's climbing. I would totally want to do that. And I didn't even know what he had asked me, but I went and I loved it. And I've just been a climber ever since, like totally bitten by the ice climbing bug ever since. Yeah.
And so if what'd you say, you're 39?
39.
So this is basically about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And let me think, that puts it, the early 90s.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, late 90s actually, because I started in 96. Right. Yeah, 96 is when I started. So I started both rock and ice climbing at the same year.
So what was the scene like in the Black Hills? I mean, I know there's a fair amount of climbing there of all different types, but my impression is, and
this will be good to hear.
Well, my impression is, and a lot of times this is true about some of these kind of more remote islands of climbing, is that it's probably fairly sort of traditional minded. And
can be.
Yeah,
depends on what where you're at.
Right, like Rushmore's. Isn't that how a bunch of sport climbing?
It does, and so the hills, they divide themselves. There's when I was there, it was the northern hills and the southern hill climbers. And the northern hill climbers were the sport climbers, more like, they were rat bolting stuff. They were just, I know, it's awful. And then the southern the southern hills climbers were more the ground up people and doing more like the needle style stuff and more, these run out spires and different things. So it was a different type of climber in either end, and I kind of ran with both of them because I liked both styles of climbing. I didn't see the I don't know. I think I was more drawn to the Southern Hills people because they were more fun to hang out with. They were older folks. They were quite a bit older than me, and they were just more fun than the Southern Hills guys because the Southern Hills people, or the Northern Hills, I should say, the Northern Hills people were more into sport climbing, and it was fun, but it was more of a scene. Right. And I wasn't into the scene. Right. So I would climb in both groups and kind of go between both of them. And ice climbing scene?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you next.
None.
Yeah, it's like I've never really heard of like it being a big ice climbing mecca.
There was none. There was myself and a few other people, and there was really no other woman that would ever go, and it was hard for me to find partners. So I quickly learned how to top rope solo, and then I quickly started soloing everything. And I would just go up and down Spearfish Canyon. It has, on a good year, like 5 or 6 different flows that would come in, and I would just go and solo all of them. That would be my day. And so, that's kind of how I started ice climbing. And because and then I would go to Cody, Wyoming, and I'd go to Highlight Canyon as well to go for bigger trips.
Sure.
So the scene, I had really 1 or 2 partners to choose from in the Black Hills. And then if I didn't have a partner, it was just me and my dog.
Right.
So, yeah.
But when you were going out into Highlight and Cody and that stuff, because this, again, was it still in the 90s? Yeah, it would have been like the late 90s. Yeah, like 99, 2000.
I
mean, I guess it was starting to catch on in a big way there. But
nearly nowhere. Cody was still, it would just be me and my partner. We'd be the only people in the whole valley for the whole week or 2 weeks that we'd go out there. So, yeah, it was, I've definitely seen ice climbing change, I'd say. Mostly, I could say that definitely too, living in Ouray, but just the whole scene around ice climbing used to be that nobody did this stuff. And now it's cool to see that more and more people are doing it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's definitely, all these sort of out climbing pursuits have grown. But that one has grown. And I think that one of the nice things, I assume, because I wouldn't know personally, but obviously like the gear, because there's a market for it, has gotten a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
Very quickly, actually. In about a decade, things have really changed a lot.
Oh, definitely. I remember when I started, the express screw had just come on the market. And that idea that, it was going to be easier to put an ice screw in. And so when I learned to ice climb with that invention just coming onto the market, I have a very different style of ice climbing, as say, compared to an old school person. Back in I climb with Kitty Calhoun a lot. And I would, her generation of climbers, she's going to be mad at me when I say that, but her generation of climbers, ice climbers, they believed it was a sense of pride to run it out.
Sure.
And, it was a sign of weakness if you stopped and put in screws. And so when I learned, screws were easy to put in. And it made sense. Well, if you're rock climbing, you would put gear in. So why would you not put in gear on your ice climbing? So I have a very different style in that way. Like, I have no problem putting in 12 to 15 screws in a 70-meter pitch. It doesn't seem too unreasonable if it's hard ice climbing. So where somebody like Kitty might only put in 5 and be scared to death of running it out the whole way. But that's not, I'd rather just, the technology has made my life way easier.
My brief, well, it wasn't that brief. My few years as an ice climber was in that old era. And, it had codified itself in this, like, sense of pride or whatever of like you just sucked it up and ran it out. But the reason it had codified into that was because it was so hard to place the screws. You might as well not stop.
Yeah.
Or by the time you were done, you were going to be done.
Right. Or your hand was stuck in that damn leash and
all that stuff. Yeah. So, it's funny because the things have just, the style has changed. It's unrecognizable in a lot of ways to what it once was. And aside from that, it was the you don't fall on those screws. If you do manage to place one, don't. It's just there to like have your rope clipped to something, like I never fell on an ice screw in 4 or 5 years of climbing, like up at Vail and all that sort of stuff. Never did. No way.
I never fell on an ice screw, ice climbing, knocking on wood right there. I haven't fallen on, not pure ice climbing, but mixed climbing. I've fallen on plenty of those things, and thank God they hold. They hold every time.
On screws?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. They're only as good as the medium you put it in.
Right,
so
right.
if the ice is good, the screw's good.
All right. It's got to be still kind of scary, though.
Nah.
No?
You get used to it.
And you got, like, pointy things that fly
right,
through the
but
air
ideally, you're falling off of something that's so steep you're not going to hit anything.
Well,
so.
I think, that's also, I think, tied into the genesis of that style of climbing.
Yeah.
People would never, I think, have pushed themselves, at least in the beginning, as hard on vertical climbing as they did on finding these big steep caves and putting some bolts in and like cleaning it all up. And it's a really interesting little kind of corner of climbing that. So you end up in the Black Hills, and then you're climbing there. And how long were you there?
I was there for 8 years.
Oh, wow.
So all of my 20s.
I had no idea. You were there for 8 years?
Yeah. Graduated college, graduated university there, and then just stuck around. The next thing I knew, I was
guiding. So you
guiding.
transferred there from Kent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I finished my last 2 years at Black Hills State.
Okay.
Yeah. I had the idea originally that after I graduated, I actually had no plans to ever become a guide. My outdoor education degree, Black Hills State was a science-based school. It wasn't an education or adventure-based school, I should say. So like Prescott College, their curriculum is very adventure-based. So everybody's going to be in the field doing climbing courses, rafting courses, these very adventure-based activities, where at Black Hills State, this is sort of the beginning still of outdoor ed, isn't really catching on in the world yet, or in our country at that point, and it was more science-based. So my degree is more geared around the person who would probably be a science teacher in the outdoor and using the outdoors as a classroom, the outdoors as a resource, not so much as, like climbing guiding or rafting guiding or in that sort of adventure way, but more of an educational way. So that was a different degree in that way. It wasn't sort of structured the same as a lot of outdoor ed degrees are now. And when I first graduated, I had no plan to be a guide. I thought I was going to do like corporate team building stuff is what I first thought, because I really loved that stuff. It was really fun to go in and I actually had a business with a friend of mine, and we would go in and do corporate like team building stuff. And it was super fun to go into a room full of stuffy business people and say, okay, we're going to play tag and we're going to play this maze game and just stupid stuff. And by the end of it, they definitely weren't well received at first, but by the end of it, it was a lot of fun. So I had no plans to become a guide or to do anything. And then the more I stayed around the Black Hills, next thing I know, I'm asked hey, do you want to help us with this course? Hey, can you help us with this course? Hey, can you put the ropes up on this course? And then next thing you knew, I was just like going down the guiding track without even looking where I was going.
So in the Black Hills, there were established guiding companies or...
Yeah, like a tiny, two very small companies.
Right.
Sylvan Lakes Climbing Guides, little shout out to them. They were the very first company who ever hired me. And then Devil's Tower Lodge, Frank Sanders.
Oh, right.
I did some
Frank
work
Sanders.
for him over there.
I've been sort of like lightly in touch with Frank Sanders, but
interesting character. He definitely worth talking to.
Definitely, I have received several emails about having him on the show, and so we've actually communicated.
Oh,
not quite directly yet.
Yeah.
So I need to follow that up, because his name, I'd never heard of him before. Last January, Brendan Leonard told me about this guy.
If you ever go to the tower, that's the guy.
Heard him a bunch. Yeah. So all right. So you end up then. When do you end up in Colorado? I mean, I actually I've known you for, 5 or 6 years. The Thanksgiving
long time, yeah.
was
it's
some
like
time ago.
2007 or 2008, I think we spent Thanksgiving together.
And so I guess I had just thought you just seemed like a Colorado girl.
No, so when I was in 2004, I was, it was 2004. I was working as a civilian at an Air Force base in the Black Hills, basically guiding for the Air Force and running the outdoor program. And I had done I led a trip for those guys, and I was driving back, and my sister went on the trip with me. And as we were driving back, I think we went to Colorado, Buena Vista or somewhere. And as we were driving back home that day, I told my sister, I said, in 1 year, I'm leaving here. I'm moving out of the Black Hills. And I said, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going somewhere different, and I want to be a full-time guide, and I want somewhere bigger with bigger ice climbing and just bigger overall.
Right.
And she said, okay, I'll if you pick somewhere and it has a school, university, I'll move there with you. And so I applied at a job with the American Alpine Institute, and they hired me. So in 2004, in May of 2004, we left the Black Hills, my sister and I, and we moved to Bellingham, Washington.
Okay.
Started guiding for them. I guided for them for a full year. And then in the winter of 2005, there was a position that opened up at the American Alpine Institute in Ouray, Colorado.
Okay.
And I was already an ice climber.
Right.
Crazy about ice climbing. I had climbed already over Cody and Highlight, and I just knew I'd never been to Ouray, but I knew that's where I had to go.
Right.
Because I wanted to compete at some point in that ice fest, and I knew I had to at least go to the town to do that. So I moved there in the winter of 2005. 2006 was my first winter in Ouray. Uh-huh. And at first I just would spend a couple months there a year and then go back up to Washington and work in the summer. And I bounced around like that for a while, going from Bellingham in the summer, Red Rocks in the spring and fall, and Indian Creek in spring and fall, and then back to Ouray. So that was kind of my circuit for years, and in that circuit is when I wound up meeting you.
Right.
Originally.
Okay.
So that's how I got to Colorado originally.
Okay.
Was the idea that I was going to go to this place place I'd never been, place I only knew one person. Thank God, Danica Gilbert. I had met her, and Danica said, "Hey, if you ever want to come to Ouray, here's my phone number. I live just outside of Ouray. You can stay with me." And I saved her phone number, and I called her that winter, and there I came, like right on her doorstep on December 1st.
Are you still in this rotation, or are you
No,
more
thank God.
permanently in Ouray?
So glad to be done with that. I was moving around like that for a long time. Every 3 months, it seemed. Me and my dog, Lucy, and my Previa, we would just pack up every 3 months with everything we had, and we would just move around from place to place. And then in 2011, I was able to stay year-round in Ouray. So now I'm just there year-round.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank God.
Yeah.
It's nice not to move around so much.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know why. I just assumed you lived in Colorado ever since I met you. But
no, I've been all
interesting.
over.
I mean, we actually ran into each other in the Verdun that one time as well.
Yeah, randomly. I heard this voice, and I was like, wait a minute, I know that voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys were sitting there having breakfast, I think, on the rim. So anyhow, cool. Well, the other thing, as long as we're on this track of guiding, I want to get back to that mixed climbing thing because I have some questions about it. So as an extension of talking about guiding, who are you working for now? Do you work for yourself?
No, I work for San Juan Mountain Guides year-round, and then I also work for Chicks Climbing.
Okay, yeah, I wanted to get to the Chicks Climbing thing because that has to do with why you're sitting here in a certain extent. I actually, and I'll just put it out there in case she listens to this, I actually emailed Kim, I Facebooked her, so that doesn't actually always get through, about maybe coming on the show and talking about it. So, but you're here now, so I'm going to talk to you about it. So you had said that this thing was 16 years old, and you've been working for or with them for how long?
6 years. This is my 6th year, yep.
And I asked you this on the last show, and you talked about it a bit, about if there's a difference in your mind between guiding women and guiding men, if there's anything real distinct. And I think we can talk about that again within this context, but why do you think that something like Chicks Climbing needs to exist or is important to have this like kind of niche about getting women together to go climbing, whether it's ice or rock or anything else?
It's funny because when I started climbing, if you would have told me that I was going to be sitting here this many years later,
right,
and I was going to be heading up some women's movement in climbing, then I would have, no way would I have believed you, because I didn't ever think that this was important before. I didn't see why it was important that women climb together. Maybe it was because I was a lone female out there, and I didn't have other girls to choose from, and I didn't see the difference when I climbed with a guy or if I climbed with a girl. And so it's funny, then when I got involved with Chicks, something magic sort of happened to me, because when I saw the power of what happens at these clinics, I was so blown away. I really was. I didn't realize how important it was before I started those clinics. I didn't realize how important it was to have that bond of climbing with another woman and to have that ability for other women to come together and learn from each other. There's something that is really cool that happens when you take away that male gender, because we have to assume as women then every single role that would come in that climbing world. whether it's the guide, the leader of the trip, every one of those people is now going to be a woman. And it's pretty cool what happens because, like I said, we can't default to somebody. Everybody feels this sense of like they can do anything, that they have this power of support from everybody, from the other women. And I just think it's so incredible what these women push themselves to do. And it's within that support group that they have at that clinic. A lot of the time these women are just meeting each other for the very first time that day or that night before. And you would never guess it the next day when they're all out together, just trying to learn to ice climb for the first time or just learn to rock climb for the first time. Or maybe it's not the first time. Maybe they've been out a whole bunch of times, but this is the first time we've pushed them this hard. And it's just, I don't know. It was so amazing to see this magic. And I don't know how to explain it. But when I felt it, I was like, this is for me. I have to do more of this. And I felt this need to get it out there because I wasn't raised with this idea that there's boys and girls that can, like, boys can do one thing better than girls can. I didn't have that. And I wasn't raised with, well, girls only play with dolls and boys only play with trucks. I wasn't raised that way. I was raised where one day I would play with the little boy next door and we would take apart the lawnmower and be all greasy. Right. And then the next day I would be playing with the neighbor girl, like all messed in my princess crap, So, I don't know. I never thought that those gender roles were defined. And yeah, that, like I just said, the power that comes when all these women come together and the fact that every one of us has to take a really important role without saying, well, we'll just let the guy do it. Oh, no, it's okay. You carry it. It's like, oh, there's heavy pack. Well, shit. I guess I got to carry it,
right?
And there's just something that happens and all that, and that's what I just can't get enough of, and I can't stop spreading that enough either.
Did you have brothers and sisters?
I do. You
have a sister. I know that.
Yeah, I have a younger sister who's 3 years younger, and then an older brother who's 4 years older, and so we were pretty tight growing up, and. So yeah, one day I would hang out with my brother, and then he'd beat the crap out of me, and his friends would come over, and they'd beat the crap out of us, and so I'd go play with my sister, and we'd, do girl things, or just whatever we wanted. Those girl things weren't always girl things either. I mean, we would just go ride bikes or play in the sandbox,
and
just like anyone else.
Also, do you think this is also coming from, I mean, you mentioned a motorcycle trip with your dad when you were 20, like, was he also super inclusive in terms of these sort of gender roles? Because you sound like you feel like you got a little bit of a different message as a kid.
Yeah, well, my dad never separated the fact, like, if there was chores to be done, like, right. So it wasn't like, oh, well, Ken, my brother, is the guy, he's got to mow the lawn and do all the dirty work, and then we have to do the sort of there was never, like, it was always, we were equal in that way. And I guess we did have a sort of a different upbringing that way, and the fact that my dad was all inclusive, but I don't think he meant to do that at all. I don't think so at all. I think that my brother, he's going to hear this, damn it, but he's not that great at sports. I don't know why I felt like I had to whisper, but I'm afraid he's going to hear. And
I'll just turn it up there anyway, so he's going to hear you either way.
He's got incredible team spirit.
Okay.
Incredible. But when it comes to the actual skill, he doesn't. Well, let's just say he was never the MVP.
Sure.
Okay. And I think that
Is his name Ken?
Yeah.
Ken? Neither was I. Don't sweat it, bro. Like, I was never
I want him to hear this, but now I don't want him to hear this.
I was never even in the running.
Damn it. Anyway, but I think that my dad really then poured himself into my sister and I, because it was like, well, my brother was not that, he was interested in sports, but not as interested. And then my dad was like major jock growing up himself. Sure. And I think he just, well, damn it, this is my chance. And so he just put it all into my sister and I.
Right. Back to chicks climbing thing. If you could sort of draw a picture of kind of your average client that's looking for this sort of experience versus, just going to a place where it's, you sign up for a class and who shows up. Like, what do you think the draw is, or what type of woman, if she's going to come and do, especially something like this for the first time, what do you think the draw is for them?
The draw, or the typical client? Are you asking me to outline my
client.
person, typical client. That is, we don't have a lot of typicals, but it seems like we get more and more women over that are, I don't want to say older because now I'm in that group, but they're closer to 40.
Sure.
And it's been something that they've wanted to try, or they want to get into some fitness and they don't know what to do for fitness, and this looked cool, or this was something that was a bucket list. A lot of times those are the women that we get that come for the first time.
Sure.
But then they're hooked and they come time after time.
And
after
is
time.
this marketed all over the country?
Yes, yeah.
Right.
And we don't just do beginning courses. And I think that's one of the things that sets us apart from a lot of other people, is the fact that we pride ourselves in the fact that we have a graduation of a program where you come in as a beginner and you go all the way through to the fact that you're ready to go and be leading, and you have rescue skills, and you go from entering the nest to leaving the nest.
Right.
And we have all the courses, 5 levels of courses that we offer to help get you out there. So we don't always get that sort of beginner bucket list person. We also get a lot of how do I want to say this, the woman who comes in who's I know enough to be dangerous,
right,
or I think I know stuff, but I don't. I'm not sure. And I always default to my partners, and I just feel like I'm useless out there. So you get a lot of people like that we get a lot of people like that who they're not sure how much they know yet. So they're coming to sort of figure that out, to get more knowledge, and then to also sort of assess where they are in their own climbing too.
Do you ever get women who have a significant other who climbs and they're sick of dealing with learning from that person?
Oh, yes, very much so. It sucks to learn from your significant other. I mean, even I love my husband more than anything. And if he were to try to teach me something, I don't know if I would learn it the same.
Right.
From him as if I would say from his friend that would probably be trying to teach me the same thing. I think you just naturally have so many other things are surrounded around that relationship.
Sure.
So those emotions sometimes are hard to separate when you get out climbing, because climbing is emotional. It is. There's a lot going on. But yeah, we get a lot of people like that who, they're just either they're sick of trying to learn from that person, or I had a really great example. I had a woman come to Devil's Lake a couple years ago, Devil's Lake, Wisconsin, and she had climbed a lot with this Colorado the Chicago Mountain Club. And she really wanted to learn how to build top rope anchors. And the guys kept saying, well, you have to climb X amount of years. It's like, this information is so hard. This is you really just need experience before you can ever start doing something like this. And they made it seem like it was just going to be this incredibly complicated, just like her small little woman brain would just never be able to, comprehend this stuff. And then when I showed her a basic single point anchor and a basic 2-point or 3-point anchor, she was really let down, actually. She was 100% let down. Yeah.
It was so anticlimactic. No gears or anything that need to go together.
It was so anticlimactic for her. It was just, This is
the big secret knowledge that they've been holding over my head.
Yeah.
Right.
As if her little brain was just never going to be able to comprehend that. And she was so blown away with how easy it was that it was even more empowering to her.
Right.
So yeah, we have a lot of that, like a lot of this idea. I don't know, like a lot of women are held back from others, from whether it's a man, a lot of times it's their boyfriend or a significant other, or maybe it's not a boyfriend, but a male climbing partner. And it's this idea that for some reason we just aren't smart enough to learn this stuff or whatever.
Right.
And it's that kind of idea. And so it's cool to get those women who come in, because yes, it was anticlimactic for that woman, but at the same time it was so empowering because it was so simple. These are easy things. And I joke, I said, anybody can learn this stuff. I said, I've seen the people who climb out there.
Sure.
I know you ladies can learn this.
Yeah, totally. Well, I've made that suggestion to because I was a guide for a long time and have always also been, like you just said, when you started guiding, it was because people were like, well, can you help us with this or whatever?
Yeah.
So, and that's been a suggestion I've made a bunch of times. And I think it doesn't just apply to climbing, but look, so-and-so, he is a really good climber, but A, he's not a teacher.
Right.
And B, like you said, there's a bunch of shit wrapped up around this thing. So why don't you go take a course from whether it's a chicks climbing thing or not, just a course from an objective guide whose job it is to teach you these things in a pleasant way, you know, and hopefully you'll have a great time and you know, because he's selling a product, so to speak, or she is.
Yeah.
And then come back and you'll be able to apply these skills around your boyfriend, but stop like getting in the arguments and having all the problems that you've been having, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Climbing is a life-threatening activity. And it's amazing to me how many people have just learned this from their friends.
Sure.
And it's like, you get the classic, well, I've been climbing for 30 years. I've never had any problems. It's like, well, did you ever really test your system? Did anything, you know, did you ever try to climb harder than 5'6"? You know, it's no offense to that person, but you know, there's something to be said for somebody who goes and gets continuing education, who dedicates their life to this and dedicates their life to taking people in the mountains or into that environment and actually educating them, not just dragging them around and not just doing this for ourselves. Like there's another level of risk and safety that we're always looking at. So, and then the idea of just simply taking these concepts, which can seem really complicated, like building an anchor or belaying off the anchor.
Well, and it's consequential.
Right.
I mean, you need to do it right.
Right, exactly.
So there's some anxiety in that as
and
well.
some of that can just be broken down into really simple steps and really easy steps to remember. And then you realize, wow, this stuff isn't that hard. And so, but it is still life-threatening. And so I can't say that enough. I think it's important that if you want to start getting into the next level or if you have questions about this stuff, ask a professional. Don't, you know, even though your buddy's awesome, he can climb 513, he may not be the most knowledgeable.
Yeah. Well, you know, and the gender thing, especially between significant others, whatever you want to call them, it's a really interesting dynamic. And, you know, to go back as a guy, and I have my girlfriend climbs, and, you know, she's recently been going down to the Black Canyon with girlfriends, and that's all she ever says is comes back. It's like, it's so different. Like, I can't just like fall back. And, you know, that's partially a gender thing. It's also partially I have that place really wired. Yeah. You know, so when I'm down there, and I'm just going to kind of defend that tendency that I think us guys have, because our gender role, for better or worse, for better a lot of times, I mean, I just slip into this, like, I'm supposed to take care of this person. Right. And it probably spills over into I should be teaching her, but I'm not going to because I know I'll do it right. And I'm just going to do it because I'm supposed to take care of this person. Yeah. And it's not a conscious thing of like, oh, that poor, sweet, dumb girl. It's just that's my role. I'm supposed to take care of them. And so if I'm in the Black Canyon and there's anything kind of looming that's threatening, I take over. You know, if it's getting cloudy, I take over because we're going to get out of here because I need to protect this person. So, and I think it gets complicated because it can fall into, just keeping them in this position of ignorance about the systems. Right. But, you know, I would say in my defense, it's sort of by accident a lot of times. Like, and she does need and did need to move out into this world where, okay, I'm in charge and I have to be the equal partner here. And also, I think for whatever reason, I often see a pretty good disparity in climbing level. And most of the time, at least with the people I know, you know, the guy is a better climber. The girl is entered.
Watch your mouth, young man.
I know. But I mean, I'm just saying from my experience, right? You know, and so, and in my personal experience, you know, I've never, actually I did date a girl who was a much better sport climber than I was. But, you know, it's like I am in this position a lot of like, I'm like, honestly, like, clenching my fist because I want to take over the fumbling, right? You know, because
but you gotta let them fumble. You gotta let. I mean, right? Because
do you know what I mean? Like it's my role too.
Yes,
like,
yes.
I know.
Your society has an impact on you as well,
right? And again, like it can be a positive thing in the sense that I'm not going to abandon anybody either.
Right,
so it's like.
It has its pluses, I can see.
Well, but I mean, the reason we were talking about this is because, exactly. Right. I'm really sick right now. Will you make dinner? No, make your own damn dinner. I'm not cuddling you anymore. But, you know, back to the reason we were discussing it was those dynamics. And the fact is that it's still, I don't know what the ratio might be, but there's a lot more dudes climbing than women. And so I think that having an outlet to get into it
in that safer environment, or at least what's perceived as a safer environment, I mean, it has to be a good thing.
Right. And I actually, I'm on a crusade right now because I did get really fired up about about a lot of stuff recently. But I'm on a crusade because I'm almost wondering. I want to know. I bet that I bet there's actually, we got to be getting pretty damn close. Because when you go to the gym, I mean, I don't go to the gym a lot. I usually, when I'm visiting a bigger city, I go to a gym. And there's usually more girls there than guys. And maybe we don't see as many women traveling in packs together, but I bet if we all stood up and were to be counted, I would be I bet we're getting pretty close out there. We'd have to be. And I'm not going to argue that men don't climb better than girls in general, because if you had little Sasha DeJulian sitting here with me, I don't know if you would say, she's probably like, yeah, I've dated a lot of guys that I climb way better than. And it is Chris, I totally know what you mean. I want to protect them. And, I dated a guy that I climbed way better than him too. And it was, that was kind of, and I guess I do know what you mean. I did feel like I had to protect him a little bit, but when it came time to lead the hard pitches, I was still like, hey, dude, it's your turn, you got to step up. So I don't know. I am on I think a lot of times we like to fall back and think that, there's not very many of us. We blah, blah, blah. We need to have these places like Chicks to come together. And we don't actually. We just got to just stand up and just be like, hey, enough.
All right, so you're ready.
I'm ready. I'm getting fired up now.
Yeah,
I'm getting fired up. Go.
Well, I am going to disagree with you in the sense that I would agree that there are aspects of climbing where the gender equality is closer, and I think the gym in sport climbing and now bouldering,
correct,
are the places where you're definitely getting pretty close there. Mm-hmm. But boy, oh boy, I mean, you walk around the creek pasture on a weekend in Indian Creek, but
you're seeing more and more girls out there.
You
all
are seeing
the time.
more and more, but
and
it's still
you're seeing women
dudes,
leading
big groups of dudes.
Yeah. They're looking for that group of ladies.
Exactly. And unfortunately, there's only one of those groups. There's 10.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, there's no doubt about it that year by year by year, it's getting closer. And I mean, it's kind of like there would be some sort of graph that as you get into alpine climbing and things like that, and you're in an ice climbing world, and again, the Ouray Ice Park is a draw for all sorts of people and a nice, easy way to get into it. But to get out into sort of the big routes and the gnarly stuff, I mean, you can't tell me that you go out there and it's just like tons of girls hanging out with you.
But I
guys
am seeing more because we do get so many of the Chicks alumni who have graduated through the program.
Right.
Who, you see more and more of them. Like, there's a lot of them on the Front Range. There's a lot of strong Chicks alum on the Front Range. So you see a lot of them out there climbing, getting after it together. And so we're starting to come together.
I mean, look, every guy I've talked to that's as old as me and has been climbing as long as I have. I mean, some point or another, we're like, man, it's so much better now because girls climb.
Yeah. Nice. Thank you.
I mean,
thanks.
We definitely,
better.
If I could go when I was 25, if I could have gone to Indian Creek and half the people there would have been women, that would have been a dream come true. I'd have just been like, what is going on? Like, this is the greatest thing ever. Unfortunately, it wasn't like that. But I mean, it's definitely growing. Do you think that it has anything to do with gender equality in general, or opportunities for women to break sort of these like societal roles that I mean, obviously our parents were it was much sort of more strict.
Oh, definitely.
And then my grandparents, it was much more strict.
And just the idea of like, one, that I'm from Ohio. I was 35 when I got married. I don't have any children. I mean, they pretty much gave up on me at 25, It was like, oh my God, well, you're 25 now.
Right, you old bag.
And you don't have any man in your life, and you don't even seem to have one. Like, as if my life is going to be lost. You could be, and that is the case. I mean, society still holds it, and for a lot of women, that's the case. They don't see anything else other than they're just going to have babies and be moms, and they don't think beyond that, and that's just the way it goes for some. But I think that idea of gender equality is well, in some ways it's going forward, in some ways it's going back, because you have, people like myself of my generation who's like, and I mean, I'm 39, a different generation than the 20-year-old who's graduating today. But the idea that there were women who were just starting to break and do some things different. And now people like me are having babies and of my generation, and we're passing that along. But it's going to be a system, I think, for a long time where it's this idea of gender equality and women really wanting to branch out. You're still considered to be something different,
Sure.
So if I go climbing all the time, or if I go exercise, even just simple exercising, whether it's hiking or going to the gym, for some people it's like, well, why do you got to do that all the time? Mm-hmm. It's like, well, why do you think it's okay just to sit on the couch and watch TV all the time?
Right.
Like, why do you think that's an okay thing for you to do? And that somehow is the norm. And for some people, they think that's great, but I don't know. I think other women are starting to see this, hopefully starting to feel that momentum of like, there is other opportunity, and it's okay to be something different, to be this job that maybe that they're male dominated for why, it's a dirty job. Well, who cares? It's like, I think ideally, hopefully more and more women will start seeing the fact that there's a huge world and things that they can do out there, and they can do these things on their own.
Right.
They don't need to be married to do that, or whatever. You don't need a spouse or something. You can still go and be a doctor or be a climber or go be a great tennis person, whatever, without having some dude around.
Sure. And well, one of the things we mentioned at the beginning of the show, and you got in touch with me, was that, you had sort of gotten fired up about, like some of these media messages, in terms of, it was something like run like a woman or.
Yeah. Somebody sent me, a video. It was like, Dawn, you have to see this. And it was from always.com. So it was a feminine products video or ad. And it was pretty interesting because it started off with people of my generation, right? Of like older people, like, anybody over the age. I think the people they interviewed were like over the age of 25, maybe. They didn't seem to be quite that young. But anyway, they said, they were just stood in a room and on the studio there, and they asked the people, I said, to both men and women, and they said, hey, run like a girl. And they showed this like, just like really,
sure.
Yeah. Right, sissy sort of like super ineffective way to run, fight like a girl. And it showed like, like slapping, scratching, kind of like just ridiculous. And both men and women of this older age, that's the way they reacted to it. And then when they showed the little girls, they said, show me what it's like to fight like a girl. And they acted like they were little ninjas.
Right.
And, like there was like straight off the Matrix, and it was like, run like a girl. And this little girl runs really hard. And, so we're not born with these things, but we are constantly reminded of these kind of things, so and I got that all the time growing up. Oh, you throw a ball like a girl. Right. And I could throw the ball really well. And it's like, well, I guess that's what it means to throw like a girl. I'm pretty damn good at this, and I just think that whole idea of that, like, to do it like a girl is somehow weaker. Like, that's just ridiculous to me. And so that was what the video was about, was how that we as society put these norms on each other, and we constantly put this on each other, and without even thinking about it, So like a little boy has a toy, or a little boy comes out of his room like dressed to go somewhere, and you're like, oh, you look manly, A little girl comes out, oh, you look cute,
right?
And so it's just those little words that we use to describe each other, even just little things like that shape who we are, and ideally, if we can just. This video, like I said, just really got me fired up, because it really started making me think like, well, yeah, you're right. If you always look at me as this weaker person, that's how you're going to treat me. And you need to, that we just need to start looking at each other as equals.
Now, do you think that climbing is any different than the greater world? I mean, I tend to believe that we have a pretty educated group of people in general. I mean, I don't think that's a belief. I think that's just a fact. I think that there's a lot of inclusiveness in terms of race. I mean, we don't have. I mean, it's pretty white, for sure, but I don't think it would be any pushback against other. No. Coming into climbing, like we wouldn't be like, oh, who's. Yeah.
Do
you think that we as a group
a little better than society, or do we still run into these same kind of pushes and pulls in terms of
I think we're no better than anyone else.
Really? I'm not. I am in no way arguing that we are. I was curious what you thought.
We are no way better than the others.
Right.
No, I think what the only difference for us is that the medium that we're on doesn't give a shit if you're a male or female.
Sure.
Right? So if I'm going to go climb a rock route or an ice route, it's not like it's going to be somehow easier for me.
Right.
Or harder for me. You know, it's like whatever it is, that's the route. And it's already been established, and I have to do the same thing that maybe I do it different, but in the end result, we still get the route done. And so I think that's one of the cool things is that we have this great equalizer in that way, you know, so you have nature itself showing you that it doesn't matter if you're male or female, it's still going to be just as hard.
Right.
So.
Well, yeah, I mean, in a certain extent, you know, I mean, we still, we're all humans, so we still categorize, we still judge, but we do have this way of which, you know, if this route got done, it's got done whether you're a dude or whether you're a girl. Right.
That's how it should be. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're right though. We still have our qualifiers.
Then there's always like there's many women out there, and I have many women I've talked to about this that, you know, a route has been done by a woman, and then it's like, oh well,
it gets downgraded.
Right. Oh well, so and so did that. Oh, it can't be that great. Like that's such bullshit.
Do you think that? I mean that I know
that's
that
an ego. That's
well,
an ego thing.
I have heard of this situation, and it's always astounded me. Like, does that really honestly happen? Like,
yes.
Was it like a sport climbing thing or a bouldering thing?
I think it's just all across the mediums.
Really?
It doesn't matter. Yeah. There's just, you know, because it doesn't matter, right? I always say there's no math equation that comes up with what these routes are graded.
Right.
It's just a suggestion, you know? And so for each of us, when you climb that grade, it means something to you. It has whatever, right? We didn't solve the world. We didn't, you know, cure cancer. We just climbed this one particular route. So it doesn't matter to anybody what the grade was, right? It's just a suggestion. But for some people, it's like as soon as somebody accomplishes that thing, maybe it threatens their own ego.
Right.
You know, and it's like, and for some, maybe that is a threat, just the fact that a woman did it.
Right.
You know, and it's like, I don't know why for some people that's just how it is. And some people, they can give a shit, you know, they don't really care at all.
Right.
But for other people, they will always go after that and just be like, well, no, it's downgraded now.
You know, actually,
it's just always going to be that person.
Sitting here and talking to you and thinking about it, you're absolutely right. Like, we may even be worse than the general society when it comes to that. I don't know why, but you know,
so
I started
ego.
thinking about it, and it's like, yeah, and there's so much. I think climbing can bring out so much of like the sort of male side of things that can be negative, like ego and these heavy competition sorts of things. But
in some women, it brings out that same nastiness. Like there are definitely, I don't want to make it seem like we're this utopian society of women who go out and climb and everybody's happy and nobody's catty and nobody talks about each other behind their back. And that's a bunch of crap.
That's
I mean,
totally true. Yeah.
We're
all humans.
Yeah.
Too,
And, you know, and some of us can be just as competitive and just as nasty as that, you know, that dude over there swilling beer. And, you know, there could be the same girl doing the same thing.
Right.
You know, so.
Well, you know, we started out with kind of your life. We haven't really talked at all about your climbing, but one thing, you know, that you're doing as best you can is sort of walking the walk and climbing at a level, you know, competitive with anybody. Not that, you know. So do you think of yourself as something of an inspiration?
No. No, I just think of myself as somebody who likes to have fun and go climbing with other people. And the end result is usually just to have fun with everybody.
Right.
So, I don't know. I don't think of myself as that way at all. I just think of myself as somebody who wants to go climbing all the time.
I would imagine there's thousands of women that have gone through the Chicks Climbing program that would disagree with you.
Yeah. Well, that's nice of them. I hope that, it'd be great if I had that impact on people.
Right.
You know, that'd be awesome. But I definitely don't wake up each day and think of myself that way. I put my pants on just the same way as everyone else.
You would be an egomaniac if that was the case. Like,
correct. That would be
some
sort of asshole.
Who am I going to inspire today?
Who am I going to save today?
Right. Walking down the street.
There's a lucky soul.
Yeah, I'm going to go inspire that guy. Hello, I climb really hard.
I don't know if you know this, but I'm a big deal.
Exactly.
I don't know if you know how big of a big deal I think I am.
I mean, you... I guess I'm going to have to, like, whether you like or not, I mean, like I said, there's women that have gone through this program, they're inspiration. You have made a life as a guide, which, you know, is also another place where 10, 15 years ago was really an unusual place for women to make a name for themselves. So you're leading the way there. You're leading the way in a lot of ways on ice climbing, because you were just talking about how you came into it right, I think, as this like little tick upward that it hit. And also, I mean, you are very vocal about this stuff. I know this from hanging out with you and talking to you. This is something that is a big concern of yours. Yeah,
it really is. And it's crazy how much it has overtaken me in the last couple of years. Just absolutely insane. I think I just get more and more and more fired up about it the more I'm out there, because I think it's because of those stupid ass shows, those stupid ass reality shows, you know, and these stupid ways, these Disney shows, these ways that they portray women as if we're just this stupid and catty and shallow, and like it. And if we don't wear makeup and have our nails done, then we're just somehow not women. And then the same way, then those same shows portray men, and the way you're supposed to treat us and we're supposed to treat each other. That's not healthy. And I think I see that. I don't have television, but I see it enough, like just little clips every now and again. That's enough for me. And I just get so pissed off that this is how people are being raised, and this is what people think is okay. And that is not okay. That's not okay. Like that Kim Kardashian, like if she wants to come keep up with me someday, I challenge her. I challenge her. Like, keep up with me, Kardashians. I'd like to see it.
Right.
You know? Yeah. I call them out right here on this show, on the Enormocast. I'm calling out the Kardashians.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. If you have ties to them.
I think she's a big fan of the
show. Yeah. She just had her, It's had it on the back of her sweatpants. She's
really upset by this.
Yeah.
But, well, cool. I mean, that's out there now. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
But, yeah, well, I mean, I think we can just end there. Like, you know, again, you may not believe it, but I see it on the outside looking in. And I think that crusade and the work that you do towards it is probably great. And, you know, I don't imagine that you necessarily want it to take over your life entirely. You want to go climbing and you want to have fun and not worry about those sorts of things. But at the same time, I mean, you put yourself out there probably to some criticism, and that's probably a noble cause. Yeah, that's a hard thing to do, because, you know, the more you put yourself out there, the more people have something to say about it. Right. And they don't always have nice things to say, but you just shut them off. They couldn't possibly have met you then. So that's probably correct. Exactly. All right, Dawn. Well, I think we cranked it out. I appreciate you sitting down and being so candid about those things. Well, thanks. Thanks. I appreciate it. I had a great time on the Enormocast. Just wanted to give a good plug. Thank you. Thanks.
All right, folks, thanks for listening. Thanks to Dawn for sitting down again. It was a real pleasure, and hopefully we will cross paths soon out there at the crags, having fun and climbing. And I don't have much else to say today, at this moment. I said it all in the beginning. I hope I wasn't too heavy-handed with the donation thing. Makes me a little embarrassed to ask, but if you don't ask, you don't get. So I will just implore you at this point to get out there and have some fun, but be extra safe. I don't know how you be extra safe. Just be safe. And don't forget to check your knot.
Knocking on him, and it's like it's much worse. Well, the point is, it's much worse than smell of blood. He really got away with that. Number 3
because he's the victim. 3. Their objections were that she was the victim. You see, that's all right. I mean, if the singer's the victim, it's different. It's not sexist. He did a twist on it. He did a twist, and it's we should have thought of that.
We were so close.
I mean, if we'd had all you guys tied up, that probably would have been fine. But it's still a stupid.
It's such a fine line between stupid and clever. Yeah,
it's just a little turnabout.